Just a reminder, after this session, we will have question and answer or an open discussion session. So make sure you've got questions written down if you got something on a card, and we'll be running microphones around, and it'll be pretty open discussion for anyone who spoke up until now. So you can plan to ask whatever questions you have. Our next session in the meantime, Pete and Jay are going to introduce the Carolyn project and talk about this project that they've been working on for a few years, getting it going, and I will turn it over to Pete.
Thanks, Josh. So this is the last presentation we have in our highlighting our landowners. Jay, Kyle Monteith, formerly with NRCS, and we're going to highlight this one. All of our landowner talks, from Don's to Wade's example, to what we're going to hear a little bit about another individual that Jesse and Cassie are working with. His name is Wilbur Reed, to Carolyn. And we all have so many of these people that we can serve, should serve, want to serve. And they're all a little different, all a little unique. So this one is quite unique. This one, again, Carolyn walked in the office the right day to have the stars aligned for this project that I'm going to highlight here real quick. The takeaway here is that this can't happen everywhere always, and the conglomeration of partners that invested into this project mostly stems from the idea that we all felt it was pretty necessary to have a cooperative demonstration site. So the level of investment onto this particular 200 acres probably isn't going to be replicated in other places, but many parts of it can be. So that's kind of the prelude. Carolyn was actually going to do this for us. She couldn't be here today, last minute, but she's just an absolutely wonderful person. So this project, Carolyn came to me in the fall of 2019 and very much like Don described, like you kind of know in your head that something's maybe not amiss, or maybe you want to do something, but you're not really sure what. But she knew intuitively that her land was not looking good. It was rented out, it was overgrazed. This is how shelly these cattle were in November, and they weren't going home. It was pretty dismal sight out there. You could hide a glove and see it you could shoot that with a rifle from 300 yards. I mean, there was just zero cover on this place. She had a vision. She wanted healthy and productive grasslands. I helped her kind of wordsmith her thoughts into tangible checklist of things that she really wanted, and that's a conversation. She wanted education. She wanted it beautiful. She wanted people to feel at ease. She wanted waterfowl. She loves waterfowl. And then she wanted income and grazing management and fairness to her neighbors and people around her. So she had pretty good vision. It wasn't completely devoid of life at the site. The next spring was really the first time we got to get really good boots on the ground. Great waterfall. This is just a single day visit in early spring. As I'm trying to formulate, how to help her on this journey. Some of the things that we noticed, though, like zero breakdown. Like this is just a dung pat. Like you could just tell that this place just needed a kickstart of some sort to get it off the ground. She sat in the landscape in a very perfect spot. That's her property right down there in the corner. A great conglomeration of Fish and Wildlife and Game Fish and Parks lands right around her. So I knew that there would be interest from the partners in seeing what we could do to help Carolyn out. One of the things we did before we did anything else, we wanted to do something tangible for her to get her excited about the potential project. So Jay, Herman, myself, and Kyle, I'm trying to think if anybody else was on that initial burn. Joe Mayrose was. Anyway, there's just a handful of us. Went out and did like an acre burn down in the corner of the property. And it's kind of dark, but you can see it right here. That right there was the single best half-hour investment we ever made to getting somebody to understand that what was in her head was actually going to be tangible. I'll get back to that in a little bit. And then we started putting our partnership together, figuring out what we could do out there. We knew that we were probably going to try to do something scientific, at least at the base, to justify the investment that we were probably looking at as partners. So dynamic soil properties, And then we put together a restoration plan, kind of penciled one out that included basically a full spray out of this old go-back pasture. Now, this is pretty extreme. We wanted to do a demonstration site. These are not some things that we're going to necessarily do at all properties, but this was the one site that we're like, we're going to kind of pull out all the stops and really do some experimentation. So everything got sprayed out because it was basically bluegrass and brome and just weeds. Now, this is what I'm trying to kind of highlight here is that in all places, the investment into the project collaboratively was pretty incredible. So Carolyn threw down. Now, remember, she's the landowner. You may think, oh, you're going to walk through this presentation and think, wow, she got the red carpet. Not really. She had to pay for spraying. She had to defer income now for the 4th year in a row as this experiment's going on. She still has to pay land taxes, still has to pay all the maintenance, so there's not a free lunch in this. She's a partner in this much larger experiment. We followed up with, I'm going to talk a lot more about cover crops in a presentation tomorrow, but we wanted to test this idea of cover cropping into go-back grasslands. That was paid for by Ducks Unlimited. The actual drilling and the drilling cost itself was split between the Clark County Conservation District and Jim Capriva with Capriva Angus Ranch out of pocket. Felt this was so important that he actually paid for it with some ranch funds just to be a partner in a project that he really ultimately ended up not having much to do with at the end of the day. So the cover crops went in, the summer went on, and going back to our little burn site, as we're trying to educate Carolyn as what these possibilities are, we could come back to this site every time and just say, look at what a little bit of different management actually can do. Your land is, it's there. We just got to wake it up. So that was pretty important. We really included her. That's her and Jim Capriva out just checking cover crops. The following spring, we started getting some burning on the ground. She's always present, always there, always part of the process. That's really what I want to drive home. SDSU Extension picked up some of the bills on chemical and planting, along with the Conservation District. So we did 2 years of cover crops. Again, the district planted. Jay and Kyle in this picture, and so the rest of the team with the Dynamic Soils Properties kept assessing. The Canada geese wiped us out basically in one whole area. These are just fun things that happen. At the time, it's kind of frustrating. But what a learning experience. And so all this is documented, the challenges that we faced. And then we did our tours, and we kept doing tours and education events and assessments and team building and open to the public. This is this school 2 years ago out there in the summer, post-COVID. We have a grazing component. So the NRCS staff on a volunteer day went out and built fence that was paid for by the Fish and Wildlife Service. And it just goes on and on and on as far as the investments. Then it came time to putting the prairie in, and now Game Fish and Park shows up with I think we had a 60 species mix planted in December, paid for by GF&P in the private lands program. Dan Nelson was just up here. But it was planted by the Habitat team, Owen and Brett and their crew. What do we got here? Oh, then we ran some seed tests because in all of this, we really wanted to ensure that we were taking the scientific approach to it. I just super like this picture, so I included it. Then we came down to management. So we've got the burning we could handle. But we knew we'd need some mowing management, and I'm going to talk again about this a little bit more tomorrow in our innovation session as where this could go. But we knew we needed a mower, so the South Dakota Grassland Coalition stepped up and purchased a mower for the project, and then that mower was funded through the grant with NRCS. So again, bringing in another partner at another level. And it's just been that's just been the story of the ECK project. We've got Carolyn at the center, but what we're learning and seeing this place kind of change over time, and that's another take home here is patience. this last summer, finally, things really started to kind of look like they were going to start gelling together for us on our restorations. This is restoration post cover crop. Now, it's not all this pretty by any means. I just really love this picture of Owen. It's so pretty. But it doesn't all look like this, but we're getting there. This is a little more typical of some of the restoration areas. You know, there's still a lot of weed problems and stuff, but the native plants are all present. But here's the thing. This is my final slide on this, is advocacy. Dawn Butzer's been, where's Dawn at now? Is she still in here? Oh, Dawn has the courage to come before a group of people she's not met most of, hasn't even put a seed in the ground, and testifies to the need for landowner communications. And what we reap from that, those relationship buildings, is a 70-year-old woman going on screen in a video talking about soil erosion across the Dakotas and windstorms and how we're losing soils, reckoning that or hearkening that back to the Dust Bowl era that her parents actually went through. And what an advocate, right? So with a little bit of time and energy and literally your time with these producers, they're our greatest spokesperson, they're our greatest advocate. So anyway, wanted to introduce you to that. I really wish Carolyn could have been here, but kind of a great restoration story to kind of wrap up this morning's session.